and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I am your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, panelists Ben Moore.
What up?
Michael Damiani.
How's it going?
My noble co-moderator, Mr. Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
And making this all happen by starting the Zoom call in Slack, Ian Hank.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We are here to discuss some of the biggest headlines in the world of video games. But before we do that, we must first atone for all of the mistakes we made last week. Ian, please begin corrections music. Boop. Only 3 this week. I'm proud.
Oh.
We didn't mention Creta in our Q3 rundown, a Stadia exclusive launching on July 1st. Every time we do Pop-Tarts and Toaster Turtles, every time we talk about a quarter coming up, we're going to forget at least one.
Well, not even forget, just
didn't,
selectively choose those
Just didn't mention. There's a lot of games. Serious Sam is releasing on PC and Stadia at the same time. I think we said it was coming to Stadia first. Stadia has a timed console exclusivity, so it won't be out on PS4 and Xbox One until sometime in 2021. Getting caught on that a lot lately, calling things quote-unquote exclusive, but it means it's just console exclusive. And I addressed in the last podcast, we talked about some allegations that are continuing into this week of sexual harassment, sexual misconduct. And I rattled off a bunch of names because I wanted to cover that it was covering all sorts of different parts of the industry, you know, from streamers to gamers to developers, and did it a little bit sloppy because I didn't do a ton of research on each case. You know, definitely wanted to say, believe these stories that are coming out, you know, for the sake of the people that are accusing, but at the same time, you know, innocent till proven guilty. And I thank you for people that commented on that. Thank you for the discussion that happened last week around that podcast, because difficult times, difficult issues. I want to make sure to do them effectively here on this podcast. And while a lot of people definitely do not want to talk about politics, it seems in this, at least in 2020, it is potentially unavoidable, as you will experience later on in this podcast. But thank you for voicing your opinions. I'm very eager to get better at this gig, and I can do that with people letting me know how. So thank you for that. End corrections music, please. Boop. Before we get into all of the headlines, I want to play gaming gladiators. All of you, I just need to know your bets, because I'm going to set up a gladiatorial arena where I want, for everyone's amusement, video game characters to battle to the death. I'm asking people at our $5 and above tier on patreon.com/easyallies to let me know who they would like to see fight. I'm very excited to have Ben Moore on so I can offer him Abdullah's entry, Dante versus Bayonetta. Dante popped up a lot. I think this is the only person I saw come after Bayonetta. Maybe one person mentioned in the past. And technically Abdullah's post was from last week, but it was so good. I had to bring it up this week now that I got Ben. Because I don't know. I'm curious. Let's place our bets.
Man.
Place your bets. Oh, good. I'm glad it wasn't easy.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. This is like a battle for my soul. I feel like whatever I pick, I'm going to have to like take the other game and look at it so I can bet it and like profusely apologize. I don't know. Okay, let's dig into the lore.
Okay.
Let's dig into the lore. So we're rating things as it is in the current time, right? Okay, so we're gonna put real world lore in and the video game lore into it. One of the themes, kind of Devil May Cry 5 is sort of a passing on of the torch and the next generation, and kind of like settling things of the past and moving on into the future. And Devil May Cry 5 is an incredible game. I would argue one of the best games of last year, and I would passionately defend it any year that it would come out for Game of the Year. It's wonderful. I immensely enjoyed my time with it, but it's time for Bayonetta 3. It's time. So I think Dante would understand that as well, and I think he would say to Bayonetta, let's rock. And they'd both kind of nod at each other, and so I think I'm going to give the nod to Bayonetta.
Nice.
Setting her up for an incredible third chapter. Hopefully it'll be as good as Dante's Devil May Cry 3, because that game is a 10 out of 10.
Before we move on, Ben, how are you feeling about Bayonetta 3? Are you frustrated that we haven't heard a lot? Or are you just like, hey, take your time.
There's nothing to feel yet.
There's nothing to feel yet. Yeah.
Are you tense? Are you...
I don't know. I definitely thought we would have heard something by now. But I don't know. I don't know what to feel. I think there's a lot of things that like I could say, but it's all just completely baseless speculation that is probably wrong. And so my hope is that everything is going well and that it will be out soonish. I think they even commented on it recently.
Yeah, we might
saying,
get news
like,
before
things are fine.
before non-patrons get the podcast on Sunday, so we don't want to presume too much.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of news to cover. Xbox Summer Game Fest will have over 60 at-home demos. And a lot of people might look at that headline and say, like, yeah, demos are great. You know, there's press events, there's games coming out. I've played a demo of a game that has not come out yet. But this is very interesting and very unique. From July 21st to July 27th, and we are in July now, we will get access to these demos. They will, in Microsoft's terms, quote, evaporate at the end of the week. And we have some games that they are going to... we have some names of games that they are going to include, but the full list will come soon, closer to the 21st. Look for the special Game Fest demo tile on the Xbox One dashboard. So you'll be able to play all of these games on the Xbox One dashboard. And I'm a little confused because in their blog post, they said by the end of it, they will have somewhere between 75 and 100 games when the dust settles. So I don't know why they're saying 60 games, but then later they're saying that number could jump up to 100. What that extra 40 demos are, or if that's just, you know, games that they're going to talk about during that period, or what that means. But, Blood, why is this crazy? Why is this unique?
Well, I mean, this is crazy and unique because, I mean, specifically, as they detail in the blog post, these aren't just your typical demos that are like, you know, game's about to come out in 2 weeks, here is a little slice of it. Like, some of these games are still potentially years away. So these are more equivalent to a show floor demo that you would get at E3 or PAX or something like that. That's usually a lot more, you know, guarded and secured because, you know, like that, you know, that game's easy to break. You know, like I remember like some Turok game at E3 where like everyone that played it, like it crashed. You know, so they've got to get a lot of people on board with this idea. And then B, like everybody that's getting on board has to like really polish this thing up so that it's more playable at a consumer level and, you know, doesn't have back doors to like get you access to parts of the games that they don't want you in. But I think that's part of the vanishing nature of it, right? If you only have a week to play this thing and then it doesn't work anymore, then, you know, people can't hack and find secret characters or weapons or, you know, other things that don't make it to the final game, etc.
I'm sure none of that will happen.
But that was what I was wondering about was, are these going to be streamed or are they going to be actually you download them? I wonder.
I think that yeah, they're not talking about xCloud at all, so I would think that they're downloadable. Yeah.
That's risky.
Mm-hmm. And you sniffed out, Blood, that Jeff Keighley was very involved in this. I mean, it's not, you know, it is pretty obvious because it is officially a part of the Summer Game Fest. This is not just something that Xbox is branding by themselves. Yeah. But you did reach out to Jeff Keighley on Twitter, and he did respond, yes, this is something that has been in the works. You could see Keighley's fingerprints all over this. What was it about the event that just smelled like Keighley?
Oh, I mean, it's just the branding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, seeing the branding all over it and then, you know, seeing him tweet about it and, like, you know, I knew he'd have to have been the one kind of pushing for this. And, you know, and from what he said, yeah, he's been working on it since Game Awards when, you know, they kind of did some similar things with Steam. So he's just making sure that, like, okay, now this is, like, happening on consoles as well as PC.
Which totally makes sense because he backed out of E3 long before COVID or anything like that. So I figured he was percolating something like this. So to see this, it's like, yep, there it is.
And that's why this story stands out to me. It's why I want to start the podcast with it, because we all wondered what, not just E3, but what the summer was going to look like, because we're heading towards, you know, the beginning of a new console generation. There are a lot of games that have not been announced yet. There's a lot of titles that we are waiting, that we kind of have been rumored that we're waiting to see if we're getting them this year or next year. And we've had a lot of different parties jump in and start new live streams for game announcements, and it's interesting to see what game gets announced where or how many games are included in one press conference. But now we're talking demos. Now we're talking actually checking out the games. And so it's interesting that Xbox is really putting themselves out there. Damiani, is this going to backfire? If this doesn't go well and people just complain about these games, oh, this game looks terrible. It's like, well, it's a work in progress. Do you think this could potentially be bad news for Xbox, or this could be something they regret?
I mean, there's a chance for that. Obviously, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think that This is something that people have been wanting for a long time, for E3 to have demos that weren't just restricted to the show floor. There are people who can't go to E3. There are people who have wanted to have access to this. And I think this is a good thing to have these available. Streaming them might have been a better option so that they can't be saved. But this is something I think that needs to be tried out. It's definitely something they need to try out because I think this is a good evolution of helping with early game coverage and for doing something E3 might need to do to evolve in the future. If they want to ever come back, this would be a great thing to do. But I see this only as a positive, honestly. So many people who cannot get access to E3 each year, who get shut out from it for whatever reason, want this. They want to have the hands-on. Yes, they read impressions from journalists and outlets, but ultimately people just want to play the games themselves and see what they're like, and I think this is a really good thing.
I just see so many people developing opinions about games they've never played or games that they've only seen a trailer of or just get like a small taste of. And so just any kind of issues that are just apparent. Like we've been to preview events, we've been to shows, we've played demos, and even for games we are super excited about have weird issues here and there. So I wonder just again how that's going to work. How that's going to go.
Something cool about this too that maybe won't happen this year, but if this does keep going on, I'd love to see developers intentionally hiding things in these demos, knowing they're going to be hacked and data mined, like intentionally leaking things just as a marketing ploy. I want to see that happening because that would be so much fun. Like ARG for all of these.
Sure.
First of all, I want Smells Like Keeley dish soap. That's what I want. I want that smell permeating my apartment. I want to wake up and go, it smells like Keeley. It seems like a good way to start the day.
Maybe I'm trying to remember what he smells like.
Maybe Bug Snacks. Yeah. I bet he does smell like Bug Snacks. He probably smells like a weird combination of Bug Snacks and Doritos or something. I don't know.
That's the moment we lost our Keeley support. It's over. He's written us off. I've put up with a lot of banter from you guys over the years.
No, but the second thing is I run into this problem with indie showcases as well, and I really enjoyed watching the various indie showcases that we watched together this year, but sometimes structurally it can be so much and you can see so many titles immediately that it can be a little bit overwhelming, and it's 60 titles is a lot of titles to download and try out, and they're only there for a limited time. And so I'm on one hand I think it's awesome that it's such a high volume, but realistically, trying out as much as you can, it seems a little much, I guess. I don't know. I'm a little bit worried that maybe some things will be ignored or not given a fair chance just because there's so many options to choose from.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like with the Steam demos that happened when there were 900, I'm just immediately intimidated. I don't know where to start. I got enough games to deal with on my own without worrying about this. But on this end, I actually do want to, I am curious to see what they have. I am curious to see whether we can, organize more coverage around these. We've been able to get some private demos, but it would be cool to see some other games that are getting put out there. Then, what's up?
I was going to say good news is that if there are exactly 60 demos and they're available for 7 days and you dedicated a full work day, an 8-hour day, you could dedicate 55.8 minutes to each game. So this is a pretty good shake.
And you could sleep in there too, and maybe
you'd have to sleep after the 8 hours. No eating, no meals, no breaks.
All right. 7 days, no food.
You can eat and stuff after the 8-hour shift. You get an 8-hour shift every day.
Are all these games actually all going to be upcoming, or any of them going to be recently released games or something like that?
I think they're all going to be upcoming games. We don't know the list.
It seems like too many games.
They mentioned Destroy All Humans, which is coming out days afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say there might be some ones that it's this is going to be available or is now available. Maybe we could pass over this. The thing with this, it's good to give these games exposure. Another thing I want to say is that I do think going to your point earlier, Jones, when you asked me about whether this could be a disappointment, is that people might be looking for certain games to be a part of this when they see Xbox games demos. People who don't read as much into this, and they're expecting Halo Infinite to be a part of this.
Right.
They go that July 21st and where's Halo? Where's the Halo demo? I want Halo, and they're that was not a part of this. We're oh, this is dumb. I'm out of here. There's gonna be, I think there needs to be at some point, if this works out well, there's going to be a clamoring and demand eventually for like maybe bigger games to be a part of this. This is a good testing the water, but there's going to be some disappointment that when looking through the list of the games, they're mostly smaller titles, and they're not going to be like the bigger AAA titles. And I think they're smart not to start with those because those are the biggest risk. You know, put Halo Infinite out there, it gets data mined and stuff. Whoops, that kind of sucks. But at some point, I think there's going to be an expectation for that.
Blood, there is an exclamation point at the end of Destroy All Humans, so I'm going to give you a second chance to say that game title.
Destroy All Humans.
There we go. Also included in this pack that we know of right now, Chris Tales, which I'm very excited to check out.
You haven't checked that out yet?
Was there a demo?
That's what I was on Steam for a year, Jones.
Little cut there. Little Bushido blade kill there.
Nice. That's why he's my noble co-moderator. Haven, Hellpoint, Skatebird, The Veil, Shadow of the Crown, Raji, and Ancient Epic, and Welcome to Elk. Interesting that those were just specifically mentioned, but we'll get more. Are they still working out some of those deals, or it's interesting? Like, do you just not?
Well, we don't know when that showcase is happening, so I think that there's a fair chance that some of these games just aren't even announced yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to Damiani's point, I think there's a fair chance that we might get some first party in there too.
I assume we will.
Yeah, it's the first, so who knows?
What's funny with this too is because it comes after the showcase, all the demos open up, right? So it's like it'd be
we don't know when the showcase is.
Well, right. Oh yeah. So assuming that this comes after the showcase, it would actually be a weird bad time to do any shadow drops of complete games because they might get buried in all these demos during the showcase.
Well, I wonder how we know if something will get buried. I wonder if there's going to be a way to track how many downloads one thing got versus another. It's like if people are streaming this stuff, it'll be interesting to see like what games get more featured more than others. And I wonder if that's just kind of the inevitable nature of trying to get eyeballs on your game and get the word out that it's not going to work out as well for you as other things. Or even if you have something like Skatebird that like we've known about for a really long time, people might be like, or like you were saying, people have played Chris Tales or should have by this point, Bloodworth. So maybe that doesn't necessarily do as well. Has nothing to do with the popularity of the game. It just is, if some of these things, if people get first access to. I'm so curious how this is going to go. I'm so curious how people are going to react. Because I think this not only has an effect for however long we're going to be, stuck at home, however long, this epidemic is going to continue. If this is going to inform...
long time.
Deep breaths. If this is going to inform other companies on how to do this, if Sony like kind of raised an eyebrow when they heard about this, or if this is something that other people, sign up to do as well. I hope it goes well. I can't help but think both sides of it. Just that, again, people, what I don't want to do is be like, well, we've been playing demos like this for a long time. Like, I'm stoked that people can be a part of this. Like, I wish there was a way when people that go to E3 that spend all that money to fly out to LA to get access to E3 don't have to just play like a game a day because it's the only thing they can do. But again, there's the question of just so many kiosks, so many people working there to answer questions. And when you just kind of throw these games out into the world, it's just absolutely the last way that these companies want to do this. And so... is Xbox being nice here? Or do they really think this is smart for their business?
I mean, I think a pretty constant theme for Xbox is they're willing to try new things, and I like that. I do. I agree with you, Brandon, 100% that I want this kind of trend to continue. I want more people to be able to get out there to try games early as often as they can, because especially for something like this, right, where it's focused on smaller games, I definitely think that is great. A lot of the biggest battle a lot of these games have is getting access to an audience, and even from our perspective, it's difficult covering as much as we want to. And so to kind of eliminate as many barriers as possible and get those games in people's hands, I think it's a good idea. I have no doubt that this probably won't be the best way it's ever done. I imagine like anything else in the world, it will improve over time, but I'm glad that they're trying it.
One thing that I actually think is kind of a blessing in disguise in a way is that there isn't an E3 for this to happen during, because it is like limited to this week. And I feel like a lot of times it happens where, there's an E3 announcement, there is a demo for something, But because we're on the show floor and we're, going from 7 in the morning till way after midnight, we don't get a chance to try out a lot of that stuff. And so if this were happening during E3 and everything was going to expire at the end of the week, we would just potentially miss out on, some of these games that, whether like they aren't on the show floor or whether only one of us would get to play it or whatever. Now we're going to be at home. Yeah. These things are going to be available. And so I kind of maybe hope that sort of in the future, if they do this during an E3 year, that it does come later and not during the week when all of the noise and everyone's trying to shout out over each other.
Or make it last 2 weeks or something, yeah.
Right.
Extended time. I just find so much more value, I guess the best way to put this into words, for even like us. Not wasting time having to drive to an event, not wasting time having to wait in a line, not needing an appointment. Even people like us, we get gated to some of this stuff. And being able to play this on our own time, it would replace going to the show floor, so we'd have those hours to do this. But at the same time, as far as I know, there's no restriction on this. People can start streaming these games. You can give your live impressions of these. Imagine being able to do that with all the E3 games, even the bigger games.
Jones has done it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I this is the type of thing I want to see going forward, because it also takes away a little bit of the control and messaging from the companies. Because when we go to E3 and we play these games in those environments, it's mostly it's a crowded thing. You have 10-15 minutes, you only get to play it. It's a stressful situation. This, you get to take your time. You can play it maybe multiple times. As you said, more than one of us can play it. We can play it in a group and all kind of comment on it. It is so many possibilities for this. I think this is going to be a good thing. I do hope they keep proceeding forward this and see it as a positive thing to keep doing.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it will be of games of all sizes, and I think just this year and the pandemic and everything has kind of made things weird in a lot of ways. But even last year at BlizzCon, that was something that they pushed for very, very heavily, was having prominent streamers in individual communities stream brand new games. I mean, on the show floor, they had people streaming builds of Diablo 4 for people to watch and give feedback on. And I imagine that will happen not just with Blizzard, but with other companies as well.
Borderlands 3, when we went to the reveal event, they had the press day that we were a part of, and we captured our footage and packaged it for the next day.
Yeah.
But then the next day, the streamers came in, and from the event space, they were streaming to their channels, and people were getting those impressions in real time.
The one thing I worry about with this, the only thing I foresee as being a potential tripping block, whatever, is just network capacity. If everybody's trying to download all these demos, how hammered is the Xbox Live gonna be? I mean, I'm sure they're ramping up for it already, but hopefully it doesn't pull a PSN and go down during the week of these demos.
The sad thing is, Ian, I think that this is probably less popular than any given Fortnite event.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Well, and I wonder, too, if you have to be online, does the demo have to, ping the server to verify that it's within that week, Because, that's how a lot of stuff works. Because otherwise you just download every demo and then unplug your Xbox from the network and you've got these things forever. I mean, I'm sure code that deletes itself after a week exists, but...
Yeah, it's definitely going to authenticate. And it's definitely going to expire, for sure.
The other concern is that for this, potentially not becoming as widespread as we would love it to be, is that it's never an easy thing for these developers to separate the development of the game itself and creating these demos. That's long been a thing that they've said is very taxing, and they wish they didn't have to do, but obviously they want to get impressions, they want to get people to get hands on their game, and so
I think this is only going to apply to a certain subset of games regardless. There's so many times that I've been in an E3 demo space where that thing has just been finalized overnight in a hotel room or whatever. So if you're there early in the morning, you're seeing the build the first time that anyone there has seen it.
Well, and a vertical slice that a consumer can download like this, it has to be way more rigidly spec'd out and stuff, and separated from the main game, which is even more work on top of it. So yeah, I really want to hear from the developers what they think of this idea, maybe after it's all said and done, if they thought it was worth it or not. It'd be interesting to hear their perspectives. Because, like, I've done demos that, it's just the whole game, and they're just like, okay, stop now,
Right.
And that's, like, way easier for them to do than making an actual demo. Vertical
Or a
slice.
lot of E3 demos will be on timers, right?
Yeah,
That's always
yeah.
been, like, one of the frustrations with Nintendo's things.
Oh,
is, like,
man.
you'll have an hour-long appointment, but the demo is, like, programmed to time out at 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And length is something I'm curious about in terms of comparing one game to another. That one game might just be like, we're ready to show up. You said Destroy All Humans, it's just like, here's this huge complete thing. And some other games like, we're just not at that state yet. It's not the way our game works. We really want to just give you this small slice, and people are complaining potentially that they're like, well, that game I was able to play for 2 hours, but this thing was just a quick 15-minute action something. But yeah, hope this works out well for Xbox. Hope this works out well for all of these developers, because this is great. I think everybody wins if something like this is done well.
I wonder how the wording of the inevitable, like, text blurbs at the front of all these demos, like, this is a work in progress. There will be bugs. Like, please don't hate us. Don't flame us on Twitter. Like,
right. PlayStation revealed 9 independent games in one day. Shuhei Yoshida said, as some of you may have noticed, I have long been a fan of indie games, and ever since I was appointed as head of Indies Initiative for PlayStation in November last year, I've been working closely with all departments at Sony Interactive Entertainment to elevate our efforts to help make indie developers' lives easier and their titles shine in this super competitive video game market. I'm pleased to formally announce the PlayStation Indies Initiative. With PlayStation Indies, we hope to spotlight and support the best of the best indie games being published on PlayStation and the entire indie community as a whole. Our goal is to make PlayStation the best place to develop, find, and play great indie games. While details are still forthcoming, we're also happy to confirm a new indie title will join the PlayStation Now service every month, starting with Hello Neighbor in July. Please look out for our monthly PS Now posts for more information. And he said more than that, but I think this is interesting because 9 games were revealed in one day. It's interesting to have Shu weigh in on it. It's interesting to check back in with PlayStation on how much they are supporting indie games and what's going to be happening, this year with the PS4 and beyond with the PS5. I think indies are just winning this summer. Like, obviously, Ghost of Tsushima's coming out. We're talking about Last of Us Part 2. There's a lot of really big releases, a lot of stuff we're anticipating that we're going to be getting this fall.
I think they've been winning for an entire generation.
I mean, from a marketing perspective, I feel like really when you look at just kind of the massive attention that's being spread across all of these events, all of these live streams, go indie games. So what, I am a little nervous that the PlayStation Indies Initiative will maybe last as long as some of the other initiatives that Sony has done around PlayStation. But is there...
That's the thing I was thinking is because, like, I have friends who are indie developers, and one of them told me, I won't say who, but, like, literally told me that Sony actually said, like, we're done with indies, we're not doing that. We're, like, not directly supporting that anymore. That's not an initiative anymore. Obviously, that doesn't mean they weren't still just taking indies onto their platform, but they weren't, like, going to do the thing anymore. And then they didn't for, like, a few years, and now they are again.
Sony Santa Monica used to be, like, part of that studio was curating indies,
And it's funny because it's, I can't remember who, Blood or one of you guys said it on Slack, but it was like, oh, they need to fill in the PS5 launch window with something. Get the Indies Initiative back online. Like, it's just funny to me. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm happy that they elevate them, and I hope they just keep doing it instead of burning out on it like they did last time.
Yeah, Shuhei was also on Bit Summit Gaiden this weekend, showing off some indie games. Somewhat separately from PlayStation. The other thing I found interesting about these reveals is that I'm curious whether he said reveals, because I know of several of these games already.
Yeah.
Haven's been everywhere
Haven's
this year.
on literally
Haven.
I haven't gone to the list yet, but I mentioned that Haven's going to be a part of the Xbox Summer Game Fest.
Yeah.
What's going on with this game?
Haven was also in every single one of the Guerrilla games,
Haven,
PC games.
And then Recompile, I played like a year and a half ago.
I thought so. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
and we can get through some of these particular because some of these I think are fascinating. Some of this is franchise stuff that we've known about, but I just please, from a marketing perspective, I'm so curious about Haven. Does anybody have guesses of what is going on? Is this just a super hungry dev that's just like everywhere? Yes, that just answers every phone call and replies to every email.
Well, it's from those they made Fury, right? And that was an extremely successful indie game. And so I'm just speculating. I don't know the exact reason, but I think when you have that level of success and recognition, it's probably an easy thing to identify and want to boost. Plus, it's also a really good-looking game. I think
that's what I was gonna
visually,
say, yeah.
it's very captivating and easy to show off and eye-catching. So I imagine it's probably a combination of those things.
very few numbers is a bullet point that I like.
In Haven or in the...
In the Haven blog that I'm scrolling through, yeah.
Very few numbers?
Damage numbers?
Explain.
Or just...
Yeah, like
what are
damage
you
numbers.
talking about?
Meaning they have them, but they're not...
So you don't have a precise... this is an interesting, actually. You don't have a precise health bar in combat, but instead characters show their health status through the color of their energy suit and by the way they move.
Huh.
I think that's one of the things that, like, I hope people aren't getting tired of Haven, because it's not, they haven't planned out the marketing campaign in terms of showing like a little something new every time you see it. It's like, oh, it popped up, here's a new character, or here's a new world. It's just kind of them arguing, finding things, fixing stuff, floating around the world, cleaning up sludge, Sunshine style.
It is interesting to see the games that platform holders and publishers kind of latch onto, though, because I do think you see a trend when something like Cuphead or In the Blind Forest or like Grease get a lot of attention. It's just like, well, they're just so drop dead gorgeous that when people are watching a trailer of them, they're immediately going to be interested. And I do think there's truth to that.
They're montage makers.
Yes, they're montage makers.
Yeah.
They pique your interest when you watch that montage. I do want to go through the list right at the top, which I think is a very interesting game that I think had been either demoed before or showed off, or some people got their hands on it a long time ago, and it's been in development for like 6 or 7 years. Maquette. And this game looks really interesting. It's a puzzle game. Ian, I think you would really dig this, where there's like world and a world and a world. So
I'm stoked about this one.
The closer into the center of the world, or the further out you go, the world gets bigger. So one of the things that they showed when this game was demoed recently was there's a giant block, that's bigger than you, that is prohibiting you from going into an area. If you go closer into this building, you will see a smaller version of the world that you are also currently in, which is a smaller version of that block, so you can pick that up and move it. And then you can, bring that block into your world, or bring something bigger into the smaller world. And it's neat. I get stressed out playing puzzle games, but this looks like a nice marriage of playfulness and puzzleness.
Recursion jumps.
If you told me this was The Witness 2, I would totally believe you.
Yeah.
Sure.
But even Witness 2 is like, you are figuring this out or you are going nowhere. There are places to go in the environment, but you're not getting across this bridge unless you do these 5 things. Where this just definitely seems, to me, kind of like the process of figuring something out. Doesn't necessarily involve a lot of memorization, but just kind of like, I'm going to just play with this and just see what happens.
Their company is called Graceful Decay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. Maquette looks amazing.
Worms Rumble. And I have all of the specific verbiage that was used in the trailer that PlayStation released. The worms are back and ready to battle in 3 real-time game modes, which I do not recall if Worms has done before. Real-time worms.
It's always been turn-based, right?
Yeah, lots of hopping around and shooting in real time.
Not only that, but you're actually playing as a worm. There's 32-player matches. It's a very different game.
Yeah.
I can't wait to group stream this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. What kind of chaos we get into. I'm curious about how much. Did they mention anything about like destructible environments and stuff? Because that's a key part of what makes worms.
Right,
worms.
That's a great point.
Doesn't seem to be blowing up in the trailer.
Right.
But
no, it does not.
Who's to say?
Might be a mode.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Carto, Connect missing pieces of a map to discover curious new lands. I was going to throw this at you, Damiani, but you beat me to it.
This game looks sick. Yeah, this looks really
like
good.
a top-down Zelda Carcassonne? What's going on here?
Just like having only like part of a world map that's like a puzzle, and then being able to take existing pieces of your map, move them around to rearrange them to either forge a path forward or to rearrange the existing parts into a different formation based on hints within the world you see. And the example they gave was like an animal drawing a circle, and you took the river parts that were like going which way and what, and then you make them into a circle, and it revealed a new thing in the middle. I was like, okay, yes, this is I mean, I really like the art style as well. I don't know if there's another game that's done something like this. It just seemed really unique and different, and this how seamlessly and fast they were zooming out to map view, then going right back into gameplay, and like it was immediately changed. Like I love that.
And you hug a bear.
Oh, yes, hug a bear. You pay your respects to the bear.
And they put music tracks right into the blog, which is nice.
Oh.
Yeah, this game looks jolly as hell.
It's only like 20-second clips, but
they're winning all of us with this one. Damiani, I just imagine the next trailer that they come out with. It says, Michael Damiani, Easy Allies. Okay, yes. That is the thumbs up. Heavenly Bodies. Survive physics-based peril in this zero-gravity couch co-op adventure. Damiani says, yeah, again. What is it? What is it about this game?
I mean, just the co-op and like the physics-based stuff, but in zero gravity, trying to like deal with like momentum and stuff. Like there's clearly these great scenes they put you in where it's like you get like the airlock opens, well hold on and get shot out, or trying to use like finding a way to get enough, to apply enough force within zero gravity by pushing off a wall to like kind of jimmy something open. I was like, and in the 2v it had like the like some like of the getting over it vibes, the weird physics like that. Definitely very physics heavy, and I like that. And just co-op, there's gonna be like lots of arguing with your person you're playing with, like no, don't do this and that, no, you messed it up. Like there's gonna be a lot of that going on, and I think it has like fun written all over it.
Lots of potential group streams coming up, and as many times as we've seen Haven, I didn't really sink in that was co-op, because we haven't really seen them like separate. I think we're mostly seeing single player footage, but
I don't think that they really talked about it that much, but it probably was mentioned. But I think that a lot of the footage we saw was most likely single player.
They say here it's seamless, so you just drop in, drop out. Looks like.
Nice. Creeks. Objects are not what they seem in a puzzling mystery coming to PS4 this summer.
I think this looks awesome.
Yeah, very gothic vibes. Kind of reminds me of what's like the alphabet of like Dead Children. What's the thing where it's like A is for Adam who fell off the tracks. B is for Betty who slipped on some tacks or something. It's like this.
What
big...
kind of nasty rhymes are you listening to?
Never seen this?
What? Is Milo okay? Like, do we need to?
What?
Do we need to check in
I don't
on
have the
Milo?
monitor out here, but I assume he's fine.
Okay. All right.
It's a famous like kind of dark humor art thing where there's just all these kids that just die horrible deaths, but they all have first names.
I don't know. I've heard of every art thing.
This is also from the creators
in the comments to back me up.
of Mechanarium, which was.
That's what I was going to say.
I was gonna
like that.
Yes,
Amanita.
Yes, because I played that on mobile, and so I always have mobileitis where I'm like, that reminds me of a thing, but that could be a thing only I know about because I'm, maybe the only ally that plays as much mobile as I do. But
mobile
I think
games and dead baby nursery.
Was that on, I'm complex. Was that on PC, Mechanarium, or
that was on everything?
Way
pretty
before
much,
phones.
Yeah.
You're late to the game.
I actually played that on iPad, tablet. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
And then had my tablet stolen at game trailers, but that's another story. But yeah, it totally reminded me of that. So that completely makes sense. But just lots of weird puzzles, weird physics-based stuff. Lots of.
I'm not good
things
at those games.
Creeping out dark. No, I'm horrible. Yeah.
I did not get far into that one, but I wasn't like super dedicated to it either. I just kind of picked it up one day. I think it might have been like free with something. I don't remember.
That was a long time ago. Nice.
I've beaten many of their games.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny.
Some
it's
of
one
them
thing
are
if you
too
play
weird and depressing though.
Like if you play like Monkey Island or Leisure Suit Larry, and you're like, oh, spray paint can. I wonder what I use this for. And it's another thing to play these games, and you pick up an item like, I don't even know what this is. Like some weird bagpipe looking, thing. Who knows? But yeah, that game certainly looked a lot of fun animation, a lot of really fun sequences. Like you're saying, it's a good montage, maker. Fist, forged in Shadow Torch. Play a battle-hardened bunny wielding a massive metal fist.
Yeah, what the heck is this?
Hardened bunny.
Proud of them for that statement. You know, that's it. There's not, I don't know if there's a ton more to learn about that game.
Definitely it seems like they had the acronym first.
Sure.
They wanted
Yeah.
something to spell fist.
Yeah.
And then they went backwards from there. Looks cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get look at some gameplay on this one.
It's a
Getting a
platform.
lot of environment shots.
It's a dark looking platformer with the bunny beating the crap out of things.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a bear with the welder's mask too.
Yeah, I feel like
Nice.
Huber's going to be into this.
Yeah.
He's gonna try and draw me.
It
into
looks
this, for
like
sure.
Okay,
Shadow
here's gameplay.
Complex.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
kinda?
Oh gosh,
Sure.
that Shadow Complex. Yeah,
Is that the right game? I'm
that's
thinking of?
the Metroidvania.
Yeah,
Right.
it has that kind of graphical style to me, I think. And
Yeah.
the new Struder. It looks kind of like that
Oh
new
yeah, that's right.
Struder.
Yeah.
Or like something like
Sure.
Beautiful Joe, maybe.
Yeah.
Some air combos going on here.
Based on what was revealed in this trailer and what they're talking about this week, does Recompile look any different to you, Blood, or does this seem like what the
I
stuff
haven't
you
got
read?
to actually look at the new stuff.
I believe that'd be Recompile.
Recompile?
Yeah,
sorry.
Recompile for sure.
Recompile.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Recompile.
It's been so long ago now, like I don't even remember my own impressions. But yeah, it's Metroidvania in like a 3D space, third-person platforming. I do remember there being like kind of an infinite double jump at some point that you can get. And yeah, oh yeah, these air dashes. I remember this.
I saw air dashes. I was like, air dashes. I'm in.
I love running
there's like
down long gray hallways towards an orange light. I'm not joking. That's it looks cool.
There are a lot of orange lights to run towards
Yeah.
in this. It looks like.
Unless it's underwater.
Well, unless it's underwater, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Everything
Get
looked
the-
like
get
a
the hell
red
out.
hue or a green hue, though. Like the neon green or neon red. That would be the only thing I wanted to see a little bit more of. I know it was a really short trailer. Maybe you saw more of this. Blood was just a little bit more variety in the environments. It felt like there's like going back and forth between pretty much two environments only.
I
through the
definitely see
trailer.
more variety in this trailer than what I saw when I played
Okay.
it. So yeah, there's some more like set piece looking enemies and areas and stuff like that. But yeah, it's very much. I think it's very much trying to have that like high contrast between dark and light.
Yeah.
This is
So-
something you don't see every day on a trailer. At the end, it says footage captured from a PC version of the game, right before it cuts to the PlayStation.
Oh sure.
Greatness awaits.
I realize that we already moved on from this, but I just want to say Fist looks fantastic. This is
Yeah.
the first time I'm
Oh,
seeing
cool.
It looks
Yeah.
bonkers.
it. Looks really, really cool.
I like that we're stoked on all of these. Where the Heart is the last one on the list. A narrative adventure that blurs the line between truth and fiction.
Oh man, there's a little too much of that going on. But
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily describe it as well. Doesn't make it stand out as much as being a bunny with a giant metal fist, but it looks emotional. What are we streaming next Tuesday for a group stream? I'm getting these games confused.
it's not this.
Yeah,
It's called We Were Here Together.
there
It's
it
a
is.
yeah.
co-op game.
Okay,
I'm playing that.
yeah.
I was like, oh, I wonder what Jones is talking about.
We were here together. Where the Heart is.
This looks cool though. It's like
Yeah.
What Remains of Edith Finch mixed with like Kentucky Route Zero mixed with I don't know, like a 3D Monkey Island. I don't know. It's weird.
So there we go. 9 games. It's interesting because we had some press conferences, even just the Guerrilla Collective over like 3 days covered over like 100 different games. And then here PlayStation shows up with just 9. And so I feel bad because there were a lot of events recently that we didn't necessarily spend as much time as we just did on these 9 games. But these were the 9 games that PlayStation chose. And so
Yeah.
it's curious to me, after all the events that we've seen, what it really takes for some of these games. Because from what I've seen, I don't necessarily think any of these games is like drastically that much better. It's like Spiritfarer looks great. There's just a lot of games I'm curious about that are not part of these 9 games. And so it's a bummer that we don't get to spend as much time focusing on those things.
I think there's kind of this, and we touched on it before, but even when we were watching stuff during E3, there were things that it was hard to commentate on where it's like, okay, it's hard to know exactly what is going to maybe make a point-and-click adventure game special outside of the way that it looks, when it's so reliant on narrative. Whereas looking at something like Fist, I can already tell, just by looking at it, that it is going to be fun juggling dudes, right? Like, that activity, I think, communicates how it's going to play a little bit more effectively than some of those other games. And it's not those other games' fault, it's just, unfortunately, being in genres that are more reliant on narrative. It's always a harder sell.
I like the idea too of Shuhei Yoshida like collecting and like shepherding these forward.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he's really doing or whatever, but I don't know. He gives me good vibes. I like Shuhei.
Of course.
So
I could see Shuhei like just knocking on your door and just being like, play this, smiling, and then just leaves.
Hands you like an unlabeled CD,
Right.
and you're just like, what is this, Shuhei?
I prefer the doorbell ringing. You open the door, it's on the ground, and you look up, and he just waves from the car.
He's like running. He's like almost back to his van.
I was wrong about Demon Souls. Goodbye.
Shuhei? Yeah. Yeah, there's a note that's like, I'm sorry about Demon Souls.
But that first premiere that we got of Xbox Series X games did have a fair amount of indie stuff going on, and I also felt bad because we were really building up towards that event, really just racking our brains to see, like, what are we going to see? What is it going to look like? And it turns out we got a lot of fun indie games in that package, but it was a bit of a disappointment. It was a bit of a letdown because we were just dreaming in all sorts of crazy directions, where here comes PlayStation, drops them all in one day. Again, these aren't necessarily a part of some package. The others aren't all releasing the same weekend, but looking back, should Xbox have done something like this? Just kind of, ta-da, and drop those on us?
I think what people got conflicted with is, like, we had the way that they described it, right, as a next-generation showcase. Mm-hmm. I think that created certain expectations, and I think going in the opposite way, kind of what PlayStation did, like having the big reveal event, having your Spider-Man, your Ratchet and Clank, your Demon Souls, so on and so forth, and then leaving a little bit of a gap and being like, here are all these smaller games. I think that just naturally flows a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the setup and the expectations, because it's like Xbox knew that like they were going to be the first ones to show quote unquote next gen gameplay. And what they chose to do was to mostly focus on smaller games that weren't necessarily going to showcase the power of next gen. And then on top of that, many of the trailers didn't show much in terms of gameplay either. And so it was a real like miss in terms of expectations, but especially with Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. Whereas with this, there were no expectations. Yeah. They just like, in the morning, they're going to announce that, we're going to do more stuff with indies, and here are some examples, and, here are trailers that do show gameplay, and some messages from those individual developers so you can get an idea of what inspired their game and what's going into their game and all of that in a more digestible way, that you're not just sitting through something that you don't want to watch. You can pick and choose, that thumbnail looks interesting, I'll check that one out.
Well, and yeah, so they announced that they were going to do this the night before? Because from my perspective, it came out of nowhere.
They announced it that morning, I think. They said, today, look forward to these things, and then slowly on their Twitter account,
they just kind of like trickled out throughout the day.
And then they had a big montage of them all at the end and a big blog post that pointed to all their different separate posts for each individual game. I've been so curious about what's going on at PlayStation, when we're going to get more news about the PS5, when we were going to see the console, when we were going to see the controller. And it's like in the past 4 or 5 months, there's only like one thing that they told us about ahead of time. It's like everything else is just like a Wired article drop. Here's the controller. Here's this other thing. And I think I kind of have to eat my words because they're making me happy. I like a lot of the stuff that Sony's doing. I mean, I'm happy with Xbox. It's not a comparison thing, but it's just from a marketing perspective, I'm surprised that there's no build up to this because, you have these big juggernauts releasing these big consoles, and I would want to build. I would be tempted to tease and build and kind of point people's attention towards stuff that we are doing. But then these games come out of nowhere, and here we are talking about them, and we are excited about all of them. So, hooray for independent games. Also, happy news. Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Just kind of building on your thought, I wonder if you could somehow like do a study about built up hype and how often it meets the expectations or disappoints in the games industry. My guess would be more often a disappointment.
Of course.
than,
Right.
you know?
So I think some things are just frankly insurmountable, you know?
Yeah,
It's
impossible.
like, we're not gonna. That's why we didn't get like a Half-Life 3 for a long time, because they were like, that's not, like, let's not do that to ourselves. It's just too big of a risk. Forget it.
But then they released Alex, and it was awesome.
And it was good.
We got one of the best VR games ever this year. Congratulations to television and video games for eloping. They finally tied the knot. They're getting together. There were rumors, you know, when Witcher and Castlevania came out on Netflix, but it's officially the TV industry is running off with near every single franchise that they can get their hands on. First and foremost, today we should talk about Fallout. Being produced by Amazon Studios. Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, responsible for Westworld, are going to be taking that on, who are also working on Westworld Season 4, which has been approved, and another show, which I do not recall the name of, but they are a busy pair, and they're going to make a Fallout TV show. From The Hollywood Reporter, the project is currently in development but has a serious commitment penalty attached. That means if Amazon execs like the script, Fallout would bypass the traditional pilot stage and go directly to series. Or if it is passed over, all involved would be paid out as if it had. A writer is not currently attached, which is interesting.
Okay.
That's a crazy.
They don't have that script. They just bought into Fallout. So Fallout
Man, this is making me feel a whole lot of reservation.
Yeah.
I bet I know what was it, the ink spots gonna be in that trailer?
The ink
What?
spots.
They're always in the Fallout.
Ink spots.
Is it ink spots, or am I getting the name it wrong? That the band that they always.
Oh.
If I did.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. The ink spots. There are, you know.
I mean,
of course, I'm thinking transitions. I'm like, were there like weird ink spots in the trailer?
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about, Blood?
Are we gonna get flagged just for saying the word ink spots?
I have to sort of ground myself, because if you would have said, you know, years ago, like, hey, a Castlevania TV show is coming out, like I would have been like, okay, well, that's going to be predictably bad, and I loved it. So crazier things have happened, but Fallout is very weird, and I suppose you could apply this to Witcher as well, but with Fallout, so much of it is basking in the world of Fallout, like kind of going from one point to another, putting the radio on your Pip-Boy, and just kind of getting lost in the world and experiencing the environmental storytelling that's going on, and just sort of like they're games that prioritize uncovering things, and then on top of that, you know, choice is so much a factor in Fallout, with like which companion are you going to invest in and bring along with you and get to know, what faction are you going to align yourself in. So it's weird to adapt that to a TV show.
What mutated cereal do you like?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like, what chems are you addicted to? But and I was laughing at the final episode of Westworld Season 3. I thought it was atrocious. So having the Westworld Association is not
and like
something
Westworld is so labyrinthian, like it's so needlessly obtuse.
Up its own butt.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
Fallout, if you strip it down, typically pretty straight ahead main storyline. Like, find the Garden of Eden creation kit. That's it. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
do this. Find your dad. Like,
Right.
start this machine up. Like, that's usually like what you're trying to do. And then like the rest of it is just the, you know, like you said, your choices and stuff. So my hope is that they don't go Westworld on it and just overthink it and overcomplicate it. Because, like, if they make just, like, a straight-ahead little story, it has great potential. Because, like, those are the things in Westworld that really sing, is, like, the visuals, the character moments, and, like, those little kind of individual character through lines that I think, in a Fallout setting done well, would be really exciting. But, yeah, I'm cautious on this.
Yeah, you bring up Witcher, and it's like, that's, you know, I wouldn't necessarily call it simple, but like they're adapting the novels, so they have a roadmap, and so they just have to figure out what is going to work.
That's a good point.
Well, they also have a
for
lead
TV,
character,
for an episode,
which Fallout does not have. So
right,
yeah.
Is the
so
focus going to be
when
more
you say
on famous
Fallout, it's
NPCs?
just what is it? You have all of this lore to work with, but none, like Ian was saying, like none of those main storylines are really something that you would necessarily grab onto and adapt.
I also think with Fallout, in the wrong hands, it would be extremely easy to focus on the wrong thing, and you see this a lot with adaptations. Where
What's
it's
the
like,
wrong thing, Ben? Let me know.
well, it's like they do the kind of thing where it's like, see, don't you recognize that? It's the Brotherhood of Steel, guys.
Right.
Or like similar sort of pandering where it's like, yeah, we know, like we know what that is. Like, please have more than just kind of like iconography or like old-timey music. Like I think,
like, to me it's like the way to do this right is like Bloodworth said, is like, because each game, like a lot of the games take place in a different part of the country and stuff, so you have this lore, you have like your map built out. I would say like do a new story. Like, this is the one video game adaptation where I would say do a fresh story. Don't just try to do, the game story again, which no one ever does anyway. So this will probably be the one time where they just try to redo a game. But like, set it in that world, and then let your own thing. Like, I'm picturing almost in a weird way like season 2 of The Leftovers, but like funnier and zanier, like weirder. Like, that kind of vibe might work.
Boy,
I don't know.
weirder than season 2 of The Leftovers.
Yeah, I was going to say, is season 2 of The Leftovers funny at all?
Well, weirder in a Fallout way, because Fallout's a little tongue-in-cheek, whereas Leftovers is very serious.
Yeah.
But like that kind of vibe with like a group of people, trying to do something, and then someone obviously has to go on a quest at some point.
In a weird way, the concept of something like a Fallout shelter is very, very interesting if it wasn't, mobile game garbage. But
yeah. But that's a sitcom. That's a
right. Well, but I just, what I'm trying to say is I think just the concept of living in a vault and the kind of society that kind of springs up from that. There's a lot of interesting stories to tell there in a very linear way that could be awesome.
And if my assumptions of the interests of Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy from Westworld are correct, they'll probably focus on and highly incorporate Vault Tech's weird corruption and like Vault Tech using the vaults to like experiment on people. I would love it if they go to the Gary Vault somehow in the show. That'd be pretty funny. But I think
there definitely has been a lot of cool lore with those different vaults and discovering what makes them tick. So it would be cool to get little nods to those things.
Kilter Films is the group that Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, that's their company. Kilter Films, Athena Wickham, Bethesda Game Studios, Todd Howard, and Bethesda Softworks, James Altman will executive produce. Over the last decade, we looked at many ways to bring Fallout to the screen, said Howard, executive producer at Bethesda Game Studios. But it was clear from the moment I first spoke with Jonathan and Lisa a few years ago, and they are the team. That they and the team at Kilter were the ones to do it right. We're enormous fans of their work and couldn't be more excited to work with them and Amazon Studios. So it was Bethesda that were like, they had lots of people make offers, but it was after Howard saw season 3 of Westworld that he knew.
Oh my god,
that this was really going to be the thing.
It started out so good.
Yeah, the first part of season 3 was good.
Yeah, Todd Howard, Jonathan Nolan, and Lisa Joy, peak of their careers right now. Really, just the last works that they have released are just, But I do really think, and it's funny, you guys are making references like I have zero experience. I know about Fallout, and I have been curious to check that out. Obviously, open world, which definitely speaks to me.
You haven't played that much Fallout?
Didn't play 3, didn't play New Vegas, didn't play 4.
Jones. These are like,
I haven't played as much as I would like.
Did a retro before 4 came out.
Games.
Yeah, I know.
But I got super absorbed in 3.
Yeah, I was.
So that's where most of my experience is from.
I would love it if the whole show is
that.
first person and the pilot is literally just the first 20 minutes. There's no speech. It's literally just like.
It would be so
You know,
bad.
if
Joe.
they
What are
made-
you talking
Opening
about?
up a door, like looking at an object,
You
like,
start
putting it
as
on
a
the shelf,
baby.
and, like, yeah.
If they made an entire hour-long episode where there's no dialogue or music or any like combat at all, and it's just somebody in like an abandoned school sifting through trash for an hour, I would applaud that.
Yeah.
That would be very, very, very funny.
It's on a
realism.
weird. It's on a weird. It's kind of double-edged sword. It's like on one end, you know, I see this world is so big that there's so much potential and there's so many fun ways that they could do it. But at the same time, it's such a beloved franchise that has kind of been run through the ringer a little bit, recently, and so it's like there might be huge expectations at the same time, or one specific way that mega New Vegas fans, which I just hear about that game a lot. People are like, that's clearly the story you need to tell, and like this might not even get close to that. So,
well, one thing that I think is funny sometimes with something, like Fallout, and it, I'm making this a little bit simplistic, but it feels to me in a lot of ways that it draws its inspiration from like Mad Max.
Yeah.
Particularly like with Raiders and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's funny to see something that's like Fallout in a way, it's already sort of its own like unofficial adaptation from film, and then it gets adapted back to television.
Well, actually, I was thinking like, what would a George Miller Fallout series look like? Because that'd be pretty bonkers.
Oh, it'd be
wonderful. It's like making a TV show on like the original Donkey Kong. It's like, well, this is gonna be awkward.
Did make a Donkey Kong Country show.
Also potentially awkward, a Disco Elysium TV series is in the works from the Sonic the Hedgehog producer.
Yeah, that when I read that story, I was like, the who now?
The what and the where? What? Studio ZA
Only in
/UM.
2020 could that headline exist.
The developers of Disco Elysium are working with DJ2 Entertainment, which made Sonic.
Will Jim Carrey play as the main character?
I don't see.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, sad Jim Carrey would actually be a pretty perfect
Could be good.
detective.
Off the deep end Jim Carrey role, which is saying something.
Like he
Jim
puts
Carrey
on 40 pounds.
Starts in his underwear.
Yeah.
Can't remember what the hell is going
The role
on.
Jim Carrey was born for.
God, that game is so good, dude.
So yeah, we played this. We appreciated it. You go back to our Goaty talks. Disco Elysium came up a ton. Ian, I think you're the first person I always think of when I think of Disco Elysium. The studios is involved. This is something that they want to do.
Well,
but this is
the thing,
a very weird game with lots of splinters in various directions. Like, how do you?
The game is like an extension of a novel that I think one of the people who wrote the game also wrote. Unclear on that detail, forgive me. But if they're involved in writing the show, I have the utmost faith in this show. I think that it would be what it needs to be like a unique spin on it. Like I don't anticipate they would just kind of try to rehash the game, but even if they did, like the game is so literary and the dialogue is so well tuned that I think that it would work fairly well, kind of if they did a straight adaptation too. So, but the world
does that
is
work
cool.
against it though? Because like literary writing doesn't necessarily come across if you voice it.
Well, that's the thing is the dialogue is all, reads as dialogue in the game, and then the prose is narrative, very literary. So like. They would I imagine they would shoot it in a very kind of classical kind of way. Yeah, I'm picturing like a Bergman or like a, kind of like a Tarkovsky kind of vibe to this show, which would be pretty wild. But yeah.
You hyped?
I'm all in on this.
Cool. Well, it's the Fallout definitely goes for photorealism, and I think the worlds are fascinating, but the faces of those characters I think fall a little bit short. Just Bethesda in general.
It's got Bethesda face.
There can be awkward, interactions with various Bethesda faces. Disco Elysium though, like I mean, obviously these are humans in this game, but like they're made to look beautifully grotesque in a lot of instances. And so I wonder if that's going to hold up, or if you just even bother with that. Like, are there going to be weird dream sequences or animated portions of it? I wonder. Such a distinct
I think
style.
Costume design could really stand out. Yeah.
And I think that this is just a shot in the dark. I'm willing to make a bet that you don't see the main character's face until he does. Like, even if that's just a couple of minutes, like until he looks in the mirror.
Ian, are you willing to make a bet, or are you making a bet?
I'm making a bet. I bet that when this show, if it comes out, my other bet is I bet this show never comes out. But if the show comes
Write it
out,
Competing against yourself.
you don't see the main character's face until he does.
What are the stakes?
I don't know. No stakes. Someone else has to come up with stakes. No, I'm betting against nobody right now.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll take that one, but if I think of stakes before the podcast is over.
Oh, we got to get some good Ian stakes.
Oh, now I want steak. DJ2, which is the Sonic peeps, also own the license for 4 separate franchises. And I would like all of you to let me know which of these 4 separate franchises you would like to see them also make TV shows on. Life is Strange, We Happy Few, Vampire, and Sleeping Dogs.
Oh, I mean, all 4 of those could be bangers in their own way.
I think Life is Strange and We Happy Few might be the... Vampire would be sick, too.
Yeah, man, think about it.
Yeah.
I think We Happy Few could be a better TV series than a game, potentially.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We Happy Few's got more
'Cause that
potential
did
as a
kinda
show
fizzle.
than a game. Like, that's one of the few games where the cutscenes were my favorite part.
Yeah.
That poor game.
What was the 4th one?
Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs deserves justice, man. Sleeping Dogs 1 is so good. Such a fun game. Such a good energy with it. Like, come on.
Well,
It's just wasted. Just completely wasted.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Life is Strange clearly sticks out for me in that bunch because it's like that franchise is rocking. Like that's the sales are doing well. I would imagine we're gonna get a Life is Strange 3. Whereas
I don't mean this in a critical way though, but like Life is Strange is already
a TV
relatively close to a TV show, and I don't mean that in a condescending way.
Yeah. And you also have the story branches that Disco Elysium has, and so you run into the issue of, are you going to take that story in a direction that people are like, this didn't happen. Like I'm not interested in it because this doesn't mirror the experience I have. Whereas I wonder if a We Happy Few, Vampire, or Sleeping Dogs television show that was successful would then mean we get a Sleeping Dogs 2 someday.
Right.
Like
right.
how does this
Good
stuff
point.
bounce back and forth?
I'd want Steven Soderbergh and the team that made The Nick to do Vampire.
I'm so bad at that. Whenever people are like, who do you want to cast as this person? I'm like, I don't know. For some reason, I can't. I forget every writer, director, actor that's ever existed.
Get, was it Clint Mansell or Cliff Martinez? I think it was Cliff Martinez to do the soundtrack. Whole team from The Nick. Just move them over to Vampire. I mean, The Nick is canceled, but...
Clint Mansell do
Man,
Requiem for a
I
Dream.
gotta play Vampire.
What?
I'm in a vampire
Clint
mood.
Mansell score Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, I think so.
Good stuff.
Yeah. They're both great.
I was thinking about Life is Strange, at the point about the player authority in the game version. Maybe if they could score a deal with someone like Netflix, since they have technology, and pull a Bandersnatch situation where it is all live action, but you still are making the choices.
Sure.
Because
Damiani.
I think it'd be a really great thing to get that game out into more people's, literally in their hands, but exposure. Yeah. Because never underestimate how lazy some people can be. And sometimes even just like the effort to go play a game, they're like, no. But then they see it on Netflix, like, oh yeah, I'll just do that. It's on Netflix. I already have it open and stuff. I can do it in my bed, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the more exposure that series gets, the better. But also, it could be live action, and you could preserve that choice factor in there.
I wonder really if good. Netflix liked Bandersnatch. I got the impression that it wasn't as huge a success as they wanted it to be.
I think it was also an experiment. I think it was also a
they've been talking about interactive stuff for a long time.
And that's
this is why they pay you the big bucks, Damiani.
Well, Netflix is willing to lose money all the time just to like be the first to do something or be unique in a weird way. But yeah, I definitely got the sense that they were like, we'll see how this goes. But
do you ever get a Netflix like Easy Ally show?
I've got some ideas.
I wonder if anybody, Ian, did anyone watch the Castlevania series that had never played a Castlevania game and then just went straight to Symphony of the Night? Do you think?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, certainly.
Do you think anybody
I bet like people in the comments will say that.
This is on video. I could play this.
Yeah. Well, and because that Requiem collection came out not too long ago, and Symphony of the Night's on phones now, so
yeah. And of course, we talked about Witcher, which is we're going to get season 2 and likely more seasons of that. HBO's doing The Last of Us. Showtime's doing a Halo series, which, man, did I forget about that.
When was that announced?
I don't know if that was announced. I just think that's been in development for a long time. Again, you see DJ2 sitting on these licenses for these other games. I think it's that situation where it's like they can do something.
Well, because didn't Halo... they had, like, Microsoft Film Studios or, like, Halo Studios, like,
We've got
8 years
short
ago
series and animated movies and live action
They
movies,
canceled all
trailers that were movies, and
I feel like that's just been all over the place at this point. That I don't know how well that will do if that sees the light of day.
Right. It's funny. I like after all these years and after skipping a lot of Halo stuff, I still love that series. I still am excited about Halo, but like whereas I'm like, ooh, Disco Elysium TV show, Fallout, a franchise I've never experienced. I'm curious about that show.
I can't believe you've never played Fallout.
Whereas the Halo shows like
the most Jones shows.
We'll see.
Or games.
The most Jones games. And to wrap up.
Just Halo Infinite. I've been thinking about Halo Infinite off and on lately, and just how much I hope sincerely that can be the shot in the arm that I think everyone needs it to be, for sure.
Everyone within Halo, everyone at Microsoft, everyone in gaming, everybody.
Everyone, okay. Just the shot in the arm that the world needs. Like
whether we play it or not, we all win.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about Halo and. At least from my perspective, just as a fan of the series, how momentous Halo 1 felt, how momentous Halo 2 felt, how momentous Halo 3 felt, and Reach. I just want it to feel that way again. Like, we're really pushing things forward. This is exciting. This has... I don't know. I just want Halo to be in that position again.
You get the news that My Friend Pedro is going to become a TV show, and you think, okay. But you hear that
that's weird.
John Wick creator Derek Kolstad is going to be involved.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All
Where's the Continental show? You bastards.
The what?
Let's take more John Wick.
The what's it called? The Continental. Right. That's the hotel. That's from John Wick.
Yeah.
The Ink Spots.
There's a show called the Continental.
There are a lot of shows.
The John Wick TV show that's been in development for like 4 years.
Oh, based on the hotel. Okay. I don't know these things. This is not a television podcast. Again, I'm bringing in some interesting news
Jones.
here. But there we go. So yeah.
The coins.
Damn it,
Witcher, Castlevania, Last of Us, Halo, Fallout, Disco Elysium, My Friend Pedro. What's next? I wonder. This is not super happy news, but I feel that we need to talk about it. Ben, you have been educated on the matter. I have not, because this is not an event, frankly, that I am familiar with, and this is just absolutely hot news because this is developing literally as we are speaking right now. But I was going to report that both Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat backed out of EVO because the director of EVO, the head of EVO, was accused
Mr. Wizard,
was accused of sexual misconduct, and almost immediately after I typed that sentence into my notes for this podcast, EVO has been canceled. And so we talked about last week. There's a lot of social change that's happening right now. There's a lot of people that are using that opportunity to, gather up the courage to make accusations or to put a spotlight on these things. None of these have canceled events. None of these have done something, to this extreme. Some of these might slow down development of some of the projects that these people, or obviously slow down careers of some of these people that we've been in, that we've heard about. But EVO canceling is its own thing. Where are you sitting currently right now with this news, Ben?
It's very... It sucks. I think I don't know how else to say it other than it sucks, because just as a fan of EVO and somebody who's been a fan of EVO for a long time and always a lot of people look forward to the Super Bowl. I look forward to watching EVO. EVO is just, I have so many memories of just getting together with friends and laughing and having a good time and enjoying fighting games, and going last year in person was a dream come true for me. So to see this happen is heartbreaking just as a fan of it, but I absolutely think that weed it out. Get this stuff out of there. This does not belong at EVO. It doesn't belong in the fighting game community. Whatever needs to happen to make this stuff stop, awesome. I think it is unfortunate that it has to come at the expense of EVO being canceled, but that makes sense considering Mr. Wizard's position within EVO. And I think that's totally okay. I do wonder what this means maybe for games that we're potentially going to announce things at EVO, and what this means for competing tournaments. A good example is Combo Breaker, right? Where that has really grown in prominence, and the community is very into it. A lot of people are saying like, oh man, Combo Breaker was already better than Evo. So I wonder if you're going to kind of see a shift in prominence, and if something like Combo Breaker will just get bigger and bigger and bigger anyway. So it's very interesting, and I wonder if like, you know, if SNK was going to show off King of Fighters 15 gameplay, if they're gonna do their own event or something, or just release it on its own. I don't know. It's uncertain times for sure.
One thing that was interesting is that they said they're going to refund all the fees, but still donate that amount, which I thought was, was pretty cool.
It came from the Cannons, actually, I believe. 'Cause one of them was appointed. I forget which one. Sorry, was appointed to take over the business. There's a lot of weird business intertwining stuff that people are concerned about with this as well. Cannon. About what was going to... Thank you. Tony Cannon put out that statement saying that, they would do, as Ian said, would refund as well as donate to Project Hope, I believe, is who they're going to do it to. But, this raises a lot of uncertainty about the future, but it also brings about the possibility for good changes that might be necessary for this community. To the first point, pretty much the Evo as a brand is probably dead. You were seeing a lot of people in the community who are saying Evo was Mr. Wizard, that you cannot separate the two, and that it will forever be interlinked, and that's going to be tarnished forever. And the best they could do is to like rebrand. If the Cannons want to rebrand and make something different, that's their own. That's definitely a possibility. But those two are tied up with Riot. They're working on their fighting game stuff. Like, they have a ton of work on their plates. I wonder if this is just an interim thing where they might need to seek out either handing this off to a new guard, or they just close shop altogether to say like, hey, we have other priorities right now and we think it's in the best interest to retire Evo and allow something else to spring up in its place. But
you don't think that in terms of priorities that they wouldn't take a back seat on the Riot stuff and focus on Evo?
I don't. I mean, it depends. I can't speak for them. I mean, they were always been involved along with Seth Killian. Seth Killian's also involved with this as well, in terms of the running of Evo. That is, I'm sorry. So I wonder what we'll find out in probably the coming days or weeks what that will be. I think the potential that, like, working with Riot and working on a new project there is probably their first priority. But like Evo definitely holds a huge part of their lives for them. It's part of their like life's work. So I do think they don't want to see it vanish. But in this situation, I just don't know what you could do after something this horrible has happened to this thing, and it's going to be forever linked with that. I think the second point I wanted to like touch upon, it might indicate what maybe needs to happen, is that one of the mantras of FGC is like we're grassroots. We did this ourselves. We're old school, and we're not like too corporate like esports. I hate to say it, but this might have been the wake up call that maybe that doesn't work. When you don't have oversight, when you don't have a lot of people putting more pressure on you, sadly, when more money is involved and corporations' reputation are on the line, they should be and doing more vetting, essentially. That to having more checks in place, having better policies in place to make sure that these environments are safer for everyone, that this type of stuff isn't allowed to run rampant. But obviously, as we're seeing the past few weeks, even big companies are guilty of this. Some of the biggest names, so it's everywhere. But once things clean house, I don't know if turning it back over to, just the community is going to be good enough unless they have the right types of voices rise up and kind of say the right ththings and say, we want to make this a better place. We want this to be more inclusive. We want to have people feel safer here. We want to erode that image of being more of a community that's had history of toxicity, with misogyny, with homophobia, with racist shit. It's like they need to maybe clean that up a bit. But this might be a time for the individual companies like Capcom, Bandai Namco. Maybe they're going to go their own route. Maybe they've already
gone their own route. I mean, that's been a big thing.
Have no ties to any of a lot of these things. They basically
that's what I'm saying is leaning it harder into the world tours,
like Capcom
they're already
Cup
doing,
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but I mean, they might have full leverage, is what I mean. that these tournaments, like, hey, here's what the schedules are going to be and stuff. Like, Capcom's like, no, you come to us. We dictate everything. You follow us. We have complete control over everything. It's like from down to the streaming, who runs the stream team and stuff like that. That it's all in their power. I think you will see a shift potentially because of this, because there will not be trust from the companies to work with these organizations anymore because of this.
Because it's hard to tell if this was going to happen anyway, or if NetherRealm and Capcom like really had a tremendous impact. It was just kind of like the domino effect, where they were like, well, we can't, if they're making that statement.
It's too quick to say something would have happened anyway. Yeah, I mean,
just like Damiani said, have this corporate oversight, having these people really affecting how these tournaments are going to go.
The thing about the corporate oversight, though, is as we have seen time and time again this generation, is you cannot force it. Something that is special about EVO is, and not just EVO, other tournaments are this way as well, but people just didn't get as excited about some of these games as they wanted to be. Like, just because you throw a bunch of money at it, just because you have sponsored events, that doesn't mean that there will be a strong, lasting community that fills around this stuff. And I think something that makes EVO special is you have moments like Melee, this ancient game getting brought in years ago, finally showing up because the fans demanded it and having this huge presence. Even something like Undernight last year, things like that. Those are really like the lifeblood of this thing. And I think no matter how much money you throw at it, and no matter how much you try to force it, I don't think that can happen. And it just doesn't work. The community has to be excited about the game. It has to be about the players on some level.
That's also why I say it really matters what the community does going forward from here. Because I think, to clarify a little bit more, my thoughts on this is that I don't necessarily want this to happen, Ben. I think companies are going to use this as leverage now to try and force this as much as they can because of this situation. But I think you're going to see that the fighting game community, hopefully, it's more than any one person. It's more than it's more than big name people. I've seen stories come out also, people like, this has just been about like getting together people and having fun and like playing games and having fun, which is what it honestly should be about. It's very important who those voices are that come out of this, that try and maybe correct course and try and steer the ship into this new direction. There's definitely a potential for the people to rise out of this, to create it doesn't have to be, I don't think it's gonna be EVO, or maybe it will, I don't know, I don't think it will be a new event, something that could become the replacement for it. We've seen things come and go in every industry. Like, nothing is necessarily, we lament things, we feel bad, we feel attached to things that have been around for a long time, but once they've been unearthed to be like not good or something's wrong with it, the changes that come from it, you get something new. New doesn't always mean worse, or even like people fear change, but a lot of times it turns out to be, it's not that bad. It's actually good. You're still going to have that feeling. You're still a potential for an EVO-like situation. A massive tournament held in an event where like the world's best fighting game players get together and play. We obviously, you pointed out, Ben, very astutely, that there are other events there that maybe could already rise up to this if they want. Like you said, Combo Breaker is one of those, and that could be the solution. But at the same time, someone could come along and create a new thing, and I think after a few years, it'll be fine. But this is a process. I think people need to have the time to have their voices be heard. I think the community needs to do a lot of self-reflecting about calling out this stuff. Why some of this has been allowed to happen? The acceptance for some of this stuff. I mean, going back 10 plus years with the community, seeing stuff that happened. I mean, there have been previous situations that have happened in this community that have been very questionable, that have led to suspensions, that have led to people to question the reputation of this community. And yeah, I think some soul searching needs to be done, basically. Sorry for that. It was a little long, but
no, I don't have a lot to contribute to this conversation. I appreciate you guys, speaking out. They're very much involved in it. And EVO Online was already a shift from what they originally had planned, and so EVO's definitely got to improvise this summer, or at least a lot of the companies that were currently involved in it.
It really sucks because due to the shift of EVO Online, things that wouldn't have gotten as much attention, like Them's Fighting Herds and Skullgirls, are just, they may never get that sort of scale again, and that's really disappointing to see. And I know it meant a lot to a lot of people that Killer Instinct was coming back, and it's just like it's a shame that shitty behavior is ruining such a good opportunity.
Yeah, Ben, and in terms of not just exposure for the games, like maybe lesser known games getting a moment to shine on a big stage. Accessibility for players.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not everyone can afford to travel to these big events across the world. I talked about recently with some of the Yo Video Games crew, like Kenny and Steve specifically, were mentioning that they would love to see online style tournaments continue, even if things ever return back to normal in the world, even as a supplement to the main events, like having EVO Main, even EVO Online, where lesser known players get a chance to participate because they can't afford to do the trip, they can't afford the hotel,
right.
They don't have the big sponsors. It was just a way to get average name people out there, and honestly it was like more like a better playing field, I think. I mean, regardless of netcode and stuff, just the larger the playing field, the more you could, it leads more that authenticity to saying you really were the best if you beat everybody. Like, you're trying to beat the best in the world, everyone should be able to compete. Someone shouldn't be precluded because they don't have the financial means.
I totally agree with that, Damiani. And I think something that's frustrating about kind of the online tournament scene that has definitely been trying to do its best, considering the circumstances, is it just, I think, is hard to reach a broad audience sometimes. Like, a lot of people just don't necessarily know when these tournaments are happening and where they are, and so you miss a lot of casual viewers or people that aren't keeping their finger on the pulse as much, and that's something that EVO had. I think even if you weren't invested in fighting games, you knew about EVO, and you might have even super enjoyed EVO. And I think part of that also comes down to, you could watch EVO and expect announcements. You could expect DLC announcements. You could expect potentially new game announcements. And so I hope, on some level, maybe publishers take a little bit of a risk and invest in something smaller to maybe draw some attention to that. I think that would be really cool. I'm sure the community would appreciate that as well.
Definitely still an evolving story, so I imagine we're going to get more news. Not soon. It's later this summer.
I want Sonic Fox to step up and head a new thing.
I mean, there's people in the community who, as far as we know, are really good people and have championed really good causes and should be the voice. I think, again, anyone who's still holding out hope for literally the EVO brand, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, there's going to be calls for investigations. People are going to want to know who knew about this, for how long. And
they say there's third-party investigations happening.
You cannot, until that's resolved and stuff, you cannot even start to speculate about the future. But it's not looking good, because I think one of the more recent things, I think Mr. Wizard tried to post an apology and did admit to doing things in the past. I didn't actually read the full apology, but I see some responses saying it was not a very good apology, more of a "I'm sorry I got caught" type apology, which I don't know. I'm not them. I can't tell how authentic it is, but that shit. If that shit he did was true, that's extremely effed up. And I don't even. Yeah, it's kind of. The stories in the last few days have just been how. I've always understood that even though you don't see it all the time, there's always harassment going on. There's always people being assaulted. But the extent of the underage shit going on is just okay. I was I'm not feeling good about humanity right now. I was I mean, that shit exists, but so many people, names you've heard of doing this stuff, it's just and how frequent it is. It's just all right. Something needs to change. This is not right. There's something wrong, very wrong at the root of all of this, and this cannot continue. It's just so
And I think we are just kind of in a climate for all sorts of different reasons why that have led to a lot of these things to bubble to the surface. And so I don't think EVO is going to be the end of it. I don't think. I just think it's worth bringing up because it literally just happened right before we started recording, and because like we're saying, like, you know, the Assassin's Creed Valhalla was brought into this, you know, because of their staff, but like I'm not sure how badly that's going to affect the development of that game, where this was canceled. You know, this is something that is no longer going to happen. This is something that's affecting a lot of people on all, you know, across the board, for, you know, from players to organizers to big companies producing these games. So be interesting to see what more news we get this summer. Also this week, a lot of other stuff. Fortnite Save the World finally leaves early access, which was the thing I was going to talk about, but we talked about Evo instead. The Last of Us Part 2 sold more than 4 million copies. Last week I said it sold a lot. We just didn't have that exact number. This is good news. A Plague Tale Innocence sold 1 million copies just 1 year after release.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go Plague Tale.
So that was on Game Pass as well. Yeah.
I think that was something that people really, really enjoyed. I heard. I did not get to check it out, but they did have issues with it. So it's one of those games where, like, I'm excited to see if either we get a sequel or they do something different, what a developer does next. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles will have a free-to-play version, just the first 3 dungeons, which is
it's an interesting way to test that out.
Rare for Final Fantasy, rare for Square Enix. Documents leaked, further teasing a Lockhart version of Xbox Series X, but we knew that. Discord has apparently raised $100 million in venture funding to expand beyond video games. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're already trying too hard.
Discord.
Yeah, they're already trying too hard to be Slack and every other thing. Like, oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
100 mil, though.
What? Didn't they do something recently that just kind of... Oh, yeah, they were trying to sell games and have exclusive games, and then, like...
That went away.
What, that lasted, like, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah,
Like, let's not do that.
Didn't last.
You can do anything with $100
Discord
million.
is so irritating to me. It's such like a weird interface.
It's something that I'm getting to know. I do not have experience with Discord, but I've been taking a crash course in it just because of all of us working from home. Twitch banned Dr. Disrespect, which you might be like, didn't that already happen? It did. It happened again. We do not know why. A lot of people are throwing rumors out there, but apparently it's permanent. So, boy, are we going to be hearing about that soon. Somebody's going to write a book about that. Bit Summit streamed for about 24 hours in Japanese, so I do not have a lot of news from that. I guess the Curse of the Moon 2 release date came from that. Is there anything you wanted to add, Blood?
That was right at the top. Well, we had mentioned earlier that Shuhei had highlighted some games. They played quite a bit of Fight Crab in there. They played a few other different games. And then they had a lot of partners. So it was really, you know, it was kind of an interesting thing to, like, pop in on during the weekend and just, like, what is happening now? I'm not sure I understand what this is.
Man, I feel like Fight Crab falls into that wonderfully special and rare category of, like, the more broken and busted it is, the better.
Yeah.
Crisis Remastered was leaked, then the official announcement was and release were delayed. So I don't know if I usually buy into the whole idea that stuff is leaked on purpose just to see how people will react, but kind of seems to factor into that one because that did work out. They don't know. Okay. No date, no new date. They just know that people were not happy with what they saw, and so the announcement was delayed, which is hilarious. Like, we'll announce that later. And speaking of things going back into their shell, Amazon's Crucible launched and then went into a closed beta.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
What is going on?
Amazon, the company that owns Twitch, made Crucible, which bombed on Twitch. So there you go. And then unreleased itself, which is not something you see every day. Tales of Arise has been delayed, no new release date announced. Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan has been delayed, no new date. Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa apologized for Joy-Con drift. There you go.
Wow.
But then said because of the lawsuits that they can't say
comment
what
on
they're
it.
doing to address it.
What's that?
But they're improving their product.
They're sorry. Final Fantasy XIV's Reflections in Crystal delayed to August 11th. Hype, Damiani? Hype? Is there hype there?
So we already knew it was being delayed. They announced the date.
Okay.
But the more important thing is that they cannot make up the time, so everything going forward will be on a 2-month delay, which means all content will be staggered, which probably means the expansion next year will not hit in summer. So they did apologize. They said they did not want to sacrifice quality for rushing, and that they didn't want to expose the staff to crunch. So.
These are the days of delays. Even when Baldur's Gate 3 been announced what they were going to do in August, they were like, you know, like we're pointing our finger at August, but
yeah.
I think humanity at this point is delayed.
We're just delaying, we're delaying humans.
That Final Fantasy sounds like the name of a Disney nighttime show.
Reflections in Crystal.
Yeah, I actually didn't remember or know what
Reflections
the
in Crystal
subtitle was.
Waterworks Fire Show.
I thought it was a CD. I was like, Jones, why you bring up a CD? I was like, is this a CD soundtrack? What are you talking about? I was like, oh, it's a new patch. Okay. Shows you how much I'm really following that game.
If it was a soundtrack, Blood would weigh in. The Harry Potter game, all but announced being made by Avalanche Software, is reportedly coming out in 2021, but who knows? Tencent
The one that was leaked 100 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which they said was open world, which I don't remember if we knew that when we saw that leaked footage.
To me, it's crazy. Like, the most interesting part of this story is that they have been working on a game for 100 years, which is never...
Right?
Like, video games didn't even
No one's even
exist.
done that
I can't
before.
watch that documentary behind the scenes. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Tencent created Lightspeed LA, a U.S. studio in Orange County, to make AAA games. Good luck to them. We'll see how that works out.
Another place that mistakes Orange County for Los Angeles.
We'll see. Ubisoft debuted a new battle royale called Hyperscape, and I played it. Check out the preview. Zynga acquired Istanbul-based mobile studio Peak for $1.85 billion, like you do. PlayStation stopped advertising on Facebook as part of the hashtag Stop Hate for Profit campaign. Microsoft also did this, but Microsoft is teaming up with Facebook Gaming, so, you know.
That's weird.
That is funny.
Those messages.
But some other brands like Coca-Cola.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
are in
lots
there,
of big brands.
Stick
Just for
it
the
to 'em.
Just for the month of July, I don't know if all of them are just doing July, but I think PlayStation is just doing it for July.
Right.
Speaking of fighting games and controversy, the Smash Brothers community rocked by several sexual harassment allegations that I will not get into specifically, but that is a thing that happened. And on a lighter note, Brie Larson started a YouTube channel. She talked about the Switch with iJustine. Isn't that jolly? A lot of people were curious because she tweeted out, she was like, I made a decision. And everyone's like, I'm making YouTube videos. We're like, oh, come on.
A star-studded video. I watched the first few minutes of it, and she just kept introducing new people. I was like, oh, okay.
But she rattled off all
that's
the
kind
stuff
of like the Gary Whitta thing, right? It's like she keeps getting these guests. You're like, what?
Yeah. It's not fair. And sad to report, Byron Bernstein, a.k.a. Wreckful, sadly took his own life at 31. A prominent World of Warcraft and Hearthstone, but primarily World of Warcraft player. Very sad news, and the community around World of Warcraft is reacting very passionately, having all sorts of services and stuff. Reminds me of when Carrie Fisher passed in Star Wars Old Republic. They were having services for her. And so, very recent, sad to wrap up also this week with that news. But again, if this is a very tough time for a lot of people, and if you are having issues, there are lots of suicide crisis lines you can reach out to. Definitely reach out to help. Definitely reach out to the people that you love and love you if you are having these issues, because that is not news that I like to report on this podcast. But that happened, and lots of love to his fans and his family. It is time for Love and Respect.
Love and respect.
An Attack Corgi says, hey guys.
Good name.
If you could speak to all game developers and or publishers for 30 seconds, what would your message be? Your voice would be streamed directly into their heads simultaneously. Cheers. You're hacking into all publishers and developers for 30 seconds. What do you say?
Definitely write bigger checks for reviewers, for sure.
Ben, why?
Ben, why?
For people who don't understand humor,
And send
that
us
was
more.
a joke.
We need more special
Yeah,
editions.
Ben-
Send us more
Ben-
special
yeah.
editions.
Our Cyberpunk reactions, people legitimately did not realize that you were joking about the Keanu thing.
Oh, every time, man. It's just sarcasm, folks.
There's not a lot you can do to change.
I was like, how did he not know? I'm like, he knew.
Has he been living under a rock?
Maybe take a look at what's going on right now and learn something from this.
Right. Do your
Fix
homework.
your
vet
fix
like
your
crazy.
environments
like your
and
careers depend on it.
hire better, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, starts with that.
And don't take camera control away from me.
But man,
really tone it back on the forced slow walking, please.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It's really grinding my gears.
You've got SSDs coming up. No more of that crap, please.
Really.
I don't want to see another one.
And remaster SSX Tricky. Sponge
All of
J1,
them.
everyone.
All
Everybody
Yeah.
starts doing it. They're like, I'm
Yeah.
compelled.
The developer of Ooblets is like, what, how, what?
Four
is
different,
that?
like 20 different competing SSX
You incept
remasters.
everyone.
I mean,
Are
we got the
announced.
skateboarding games right now. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone can take a shot.
All the people that are like in like early development on skating games are like, oh crap, what can we do? Snowboarding. Okay, snowboarding. What we do? Okay.
Let's play a game. Sponge J1. Hello, allies. While sitting at home staring at my back catalog, I started to wonder how long some games would take to beat versus others, which has led me to come up with this little game for you. Timesplitters. It's simple. Out of the two games listed, which, according to how long to beat, is
Our favorite
shortest?
site.
Is shortest. Note, this is for the main story of each game, not the completionist or main plus extra times or anything. It's just the main story. Which one
Okay.
is shorter? Very appropriate to kick off Timesplitters with Timesplitters 1 versus Timesplitters 2.
Shit.
I'm gonna guess Timesplitters 1 is shorter.
Me too.
I'm gonna go with Timesplitters 1 as well.
Timesplitters 1 is 1.5 hours. What? 1.5 hours? What?
Quick game.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Maybe what? Yeah, it says 1.5 hours. Well, Timesplitters 2 is 11 hours? That can't be right. I did copy and
Could
paste
be.
this.
Maybe 10 hours?
I guess we'll just
Yeah,
have to go to long.
it might be
long
10,
real quick.
might be 10.5 hours? I'm not sure.
All right, I mean, we can.
Yeah.
I don't have these. Yeah, sorry. I think that one was mistyped. While you research that, I will look for the next one. Shovel Knight.
Timesplitters 1.5 hours main story.
Wow.
So we're right.
yeah.
All right.
Main story. See, that goes back to like a Fallout situation, right?
Right.
Because like I remember, was it Matt Blair who was like he just checked out of Fallout 3 because he got through the main story in like 4 or 5 hours and then never saw the rest of the game.
Wow.
Awesome.
I wish I could crit path open
sounds
world games,
amazing.
but I just absolutely cannot do it. Shovel Knight, original, not treasure trove, versus Celeste.
Ooh.
Celeste.
I'm gonna go
Probably
with
close.
Celeste.
It's close.
It's really
Celeste-
hard because Celeste, even more than Shovel Knight, is about overcoming difficulty, and so it makes
Yeah.
it really tricky to judge like what somebody's average might be compared
I'm
to
gonna-
Shovel.
I'm gonna guess Shovel Knight.
I'm going to guess Shovel Knight. I mean, I think Shovel Knight was definitely faster for me.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're probably close.
Yeah.
They are close, but it is Shovel Knight. 6.5 hours, while Celeste is 8. Burnout 3 Takedown versus Burnout Paradise. Original,
Okay,
not
Blood.
remastered.
Give
Not
us the
remastered.
answer.
It's Burnout 3.
Burnout Paradise is 13.5 hours, while Burnout 3 Takedown is 14.
Oh,
I think you can call either.
I didn't
mean,
get a can't throw in there, but I was starting to lean towards Paradise. It's
so
weird
close.
because like a lot of racing games, people you don't complete
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Paradise is weird because.
the open world stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's like how much time you put into it. Like you re-race. You keep
Right.
playing the same race over and over because you want a better time or whatever. And in crash mode, you want to get that like high score.
Halo 1 versus Halo 2.
Halo 2 is super fast. Halo 2.
Yeah, we beat Halo 2 pretty quickly in
Halo
co-op.
2 is super
Damiani
fast.
just did this.
Yeah,
I
it's
did-
Halo 2.
But I mean, I don't remember Halo 1, so I'm gonna go with Halo 1.
Halo 2.
I didn't know it was known for that, Ben. Yeah, Halo 2 is 9 hours, while Halo 1 is 10 hours. So Halo 2 is the shorter one. Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1 versus Telltale's Batman Season 1.
Oh,
Oh, I don't know.
idea.
Batman.
Whoa.
Batman, I guess. Yeah, I'll go with
Walking
Batman.
Dead wasn't very long either.
It's like an
No.
hour-ish, like 60, 90 minutes.
maybe it is
per
Walking
episode.
In the season, not the first episode. Telltale's Batman is 8.5, while Telltale's Walking Dead is 13. So Batman
Okay.
Yeah.
is the shorter
Okay.
game. Doom 64 versus Doom 3.
Doom 64.
no
I wanna
idea.
say. Doom 64.
Yeah, I'd say 60
Doom
because
3
three's got all those
strikes me as
cutscenes, right?
longer, but I haven't played 3, so.
Doom 64.
I feel like it's gonna be a weird thing. Like Doom 3 got criticized for being too short.
No? It's
Which
longer than Doom
remember.
64. Doom 64 is 7 hours. Doom 3 is 11 hours.
Oh,
Yakuza Kiwami versus Yakuza 0.
Yakuza Kiwami.
I mean, come on.
I'll
Yeah.
go with Ben. He sounds very confident.
trust Ben.
Yeah.
18 hours for Kiwami, while Yakuza 0 is 31. Ukulele versus Banjo Kazooie.
Ooh.
Oh.
Banjo Kazooie, I want to say. I don't
Shorter,
know.
right?
Ooh.
Ukulele's
Ukulele,
levels get way bigger and stuff.
Yeah.
I would go with Banjo.
I'm going to go with Banjo.
Banjo-Tooie's crazy long though.
Wait, did you say Banjo-Tooie or Kazooie?
No, Kazooie. The first one.
Yeah,
Kazooie.
Tooie would win, but
You can cruise through Kazooie pretty quick.
yeah, I'm gonna go with ukulele.
You can cruise through Kazooie in 11 hours, while you can cruise through ukulele in 15. So, Banjo-Kazooie is the shorter game.
Okay.
Hope you all had fun. If you liked it, maybe I'll come back later for more. The tease.
Oh, sorry, I was saying which was the longer. My bad.
Love and respect, and sorry,
Sure you
Enforza,
were.
Sponge
Damn,
J1.
It was. Ukulele's a bigger game. Expanded page.
Y2 Kyle 89. Salutations, allies. I have had the Hades Town recording stuck in my head, and in an effort to get it out. All of you know about Hades Town, right?
Yeah.
Produced by one of the many producers, but produced by.
I mean, I don't know the producers.
I have no idea.
Cliff
I thought you meant
Bleszinski.
Hades the game
Oh.
Yeah, I did
Hades
too.
Town.
and a town. But you're
Hades
saying
Town is
Hades
a
Town?
musical.
Hades
but-
Town.
Video
one
game
word,
podcast,
musical.
Jones.
I'm so lost
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh.
God damn it, Jones.
What is this?
Man, anime comes in this podcast right and left. I bring up musicals once.
All right, I'm gonna start talking about
Once.
Dragon Ball now.
Because
all right?
someone in
Here
there
we
You
go.
guys talk about
somebody
Dragon Ball
gave us
every day.
$5
So
for the month of
Vegeta
July.
in the latest
Oh my
episode.
God.
Ian, sometimes I think you tell people like friends that don't know about a server, they're like, all they do is talk about Smash Bros. And Dragon Ball.
That is pretty accurate. When we were back at the studio, 45-minute conversations about Smash Bros. And Dragon Ball. It would like interweave into each other, and then Naruto would get in there.
Yeah, for sure.
So, take note, Y2 Kyle 89. Not appropriate a statement that you've given us. But I continue. Hades Town recording stuck in my head. In an effort to get it out, I begin to think, what video game do you think could have / make a good Broadway musical?
Ooh.
Oh, Rhapsody. The PS1 game. It's like
Yeah.
a musical RPG. It's all about like singing and stuff.
Oh, then along those lines, like
Yeah,
Parappa and I'm Jammer
Parappa
Rami,
the
for sure.
rapper, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Something-
yeah.
I know it's something they really want, but there you go.
But I'm trying to think of like
Dude, Parappa the musical would be amazing.
What, Parappa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible-
I'm trying to think of like a
incredible music.
non-already musical one though. That would be good.
Metal Gear Solid.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Brother!
That is great.
The Sniper Wolf scene.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Does
That'd be pretty
love
sweet.
can love bloom
Oh,
on
the
a battlefield? Yeah, of course it would
Oh
be
my
perfect.
gosh.
I don't know if we're gonna top that. Pretty good.
I've always enjoyed when people add lyrics to Mega Man songs, so I think that could work.
Oh yeah.
Those are good. They're all wrong, though. The answer is Kingdom Hearts.
Wrong?
Time for bets.
They're wrong, Joe?
I'm a musical theater major until I became a film major. Time for bets. Oh, wait, where'd you... Oh. Ian,
That
where'd you
just
go?
makes me smaller. Oh, because the
Your head is smaller.
I thought we were
filter.
about to get like a music video or something.
Next week's bet. Iron Man VR launches
Oh, that one
tomorrow.
breaks it.
Yeah, you broke it last week. I have this game. We got this game early. I would really like to review this game, but I have not jumped in yet. It is on my PS4. I have not started it yet. Nobody on this panel has played Iron Man VR. Some of you might have beaten Iron Man VR by the time you listen to this podcast, but we do not have access to this information. How long into the game until we hear the word Tony? We're starting the clock right when we hit new game, right from the menu. Ian. how
1
long?
minute 6 seconds.
Ben Moore.
1 minute. You can't even see this. Whatever.
Yeah,
1
yeah.
minute. 1 minute 30 seconds. It's on there. Oh, it's upside down.
Ooh. I mean, I got.
1 minute 30
I
seconds.
saw it as 1
We
minute
saw
30.
it. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
usually
1 minute 30 seconds.
I usually wait, but yeah, that's my bet. 1.5 minutes. Michael Damiani, what's your bet?
2 minutes.
We're thinking
So we're
someone's
all
gonna
thinking
talk to him.
someone's gonna be
Someone's
on the
gonna talk to
radio
him right away.
saying,
Tony.
you gotta go left.
It's gonna be close.
Put
Bloodworth.
on
The
your,
snozzberries taste like snozzberries, Tony.
put on your deflector
I've got
gloves.
1 minute and 42 seconds.
Oh, but Damiani got the high bet. Okay.
Yeah, Damiani, you get high.
I've got
Lock
the
it
low.
Last week's bet, which I'm gonna have to do in real time because I totally forgot to do it before the podcast, but it's good in case they tweeted one more time. Borderlands 3 Bounty of Blood DLC launched last Thursday. How many times did the official Borderlands Twitter account tweet by the time we do this bet? Let's see. They retweeted Randy Pitchford. That didn't count.
Yeah, be careful not to count those retweets.
Talk amongst yourselves. Let me just rattle
Watch
these off
those
really quickly.
usernames.
Yeah. That's a retweet. Okay. 1.
And that's a new show. That's a retweet.
That's a retweet.
That's a retweet. Next week's bet. How many
3.
guns are in Borderlands 3?
4. 5.
Jones
Because that
will have to
calculation, like, it has to be, like,
6.
you have to know what all of the variables are, right?
Right.
You
Yes.
just have to multiply it.
And I'm starting on June 26th, which is the day after we recorded the last podcast. So from last Friday until today, they tweeted a certain number of times. I bet they would tweet 13 times. Daniel Bloodworth bet they would tweet 14 times. Ian Hink bet they would tweet 12 times. Bradley Ellis bet that they would tweet 11. They tweeted 6.
6. I like the way you said that.
6.
6.
Oh, man.
Giving Brad that win.
Which one of us is Brad?
Which one of you is Brad?
I think Ben is Brad because Brad was the one from the week before. And
Correct.
This would have been
Oh, wait,
Ben's,
no. Well, yeah. Well, but
It would have been Ben's second week if he had been here last week.
Correct, which maybe would make... Well, okay, all right.
Whatever.
Damiani, are you upset by that? Did you want those to close out the
not
show?
in the
Are you
least
okay
bit.
passing that on to Ben? There we go.
I'm okay.
All right, we did it. Bringing our scores to Jovial Penguins 5.
Why is there always someone who brings eggs and tomatoes to a speech?
Perfect. Astonished Scorpions 4. Let me tell you about patreon.com/easyallies. If you would like to support the Easy Allies, there's lots of ways you can do that. If you're watching the podcast, we definitely appreciate that support. If you want to get the podcast early, you can go to patreon.com/easyallies for $5 and above. You get the podcast on Fridays as opposed to Sundays. And you can also be involved in Gaming Gladiators, which I do at the start of the show. Or you can submit questions or games or comments, conversation starters for love and respect. We would greatly appreciate it if you would go to patreon.com/easyallies because that is how we operate. That is how we make a living. Obviously, we have revenue coming in from other sources, but primarily patreon.com/easyallies is where we make most of our money. And it is a fun place to go to learn more about the allies and potentially find other things that you would not find on our other various media channels, including all of these fun people that I'm about to mention on our shout-out tier. Ian, you always start, and I always go after you, but Damiani, you're going after me.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, you're going after Damiani. Bloodworth, you're going after Ben. No need to lean into the mic. We don't need to get louder. Just give me a little shout-out after I mention Blue, Caleb Togi Crawford, El Fanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, and one of our patrons gave us a sponsored tweet in honor of Black Lives Matter.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Clean. Ben Moore. You get to promote any Easy Allies video you'd like to promote. You get the final word on anything you've disagreed with, want to reiterate, or just popped in your head, and you get to sign off with your trademark sign-off.
Okay. The Easy Allies video I want to promote is I truly had a blast playing Left 4 Dead 2 with you guys. And I think that it is a damn good stream that is immensely entertaining, or at least it was entertaining from my perspective. So that's on the Easy Allies Plays channel. Super worth watching. Left 4 Dead 2 is an incredible game. We had a blast. It was both tense, but there was like, you felt the love in the room. For sure. I like
Jones
that.
was
Yeah.
getting pretty salty at the
Dude,
end.
I fell off one of those mall bridges, and I don't know if I've ever felt worse on any Easy. I was like, I'm sorry.
I heard
Jones,
it in
you
your
know what I love
voice.
about your saltiness though is like, and I love this. Your salt, I can tell when you're getting saltier and you're getting like a little bit more annoyed, but like, you still are nice. Like you still go out of your way to be nice about it, and like those two forces fighting each other, it's really.
He just gets more and more sarcastic.
Yeah.
It's like just
Yeah.
It was
very.
a friendly but sarcastic suggestion, you know. No medkits. That was fun, though. It was a good time.
Point I want to reiterate: make that Metal Gear Solid musical. That'd be a damn good time. Make it campy as hell. Would be super fun. Nanomachines. Trademark sign off. Sophie is our supreme ruler. Bug snacks and Doritos or something. I don't know.